I'd like to zero in now a little bit more on the evolution of in-presence training. And in the DACH market, the percentage of instructor-led or in-presence training is about 70 to 80%. So that's pretty significant. So how are you seeing in-presence training or ILT evolve in the market, especially after the pandemic in this more difficult global economy? Stefan?
Yes, no, it's a very good question, Jennifer. Thank you for asking. So first of all, Training Orchestra manages instructor-led training and virtual instructor-led training, and we have a strong presence in 100 countries. So we see the difference between the different regions and also the similarities. If I start with the difference, I think that on the DACH market, in-person learning is more dominant than in some other market, like, for example, North America. Obviously, with the pandemic, in one night, the entire market has to switch from instructor-led training to virtual instructor-led training. But as of today, we're seeing a lot of hybrid situation. Hybrid, in the definition, is a mix of instructor-led training or in-presence training and virtual in-presence training. But they also were seeing this market, the DACH market, being at the forefront of those hybrid capabilities to be trained. We have also seen a boom in the amount of in-person learning since the end of the pandemic. It's because everybody wanted to meet in person, and it was a long time. Another difference is the external enterprise. On the external enterprise, partner education, client education, we see so the training of the entire ecosystem is more important than in some other region. Why? Because we're seeing a lot of tech companies doing product training. It's true that this market is offering to the entire world a very advanced product. So product education is really, a culture on the DACH market. It's not always the case. I don't want to name, countries, but, from south of Europe or west of Europe, or, where this culture is led. So it's a big difference that we see. Plus, companies are more global. It's the case also in North America, but German and DACH region companies are usually global. So they are seeing, they are in need of the capabilities to manage at a global scale the training operation. Also, as they are selling complex product, we see a lot of certification, refreshing, expiration. So even if it's not a highly regulated market, you don't have a strong regulation like you can have in South Africa or in Spain or some other countries, still there is a lot of certification and refreshing. On the similarities side, I think that we see the same technology problem, learning technology problem, that the one you will find in France, in UK, or in North America. First is that the learner experience can be improved, So we're talking about the learner or learning experience platform before as a specialist. Still the instructor-led training, virtual instructor-led training. So in-presence training is managed manually with a lot of Excel spreadsheet and Outlook or Google spreadsheet. And instructor collaboration is still happening with phone call, emails. Then are you available? And it's okay if you have 2, 3, 10 trainers. What about if you have 100, 500, 1,000 subject matter experts spread out globally with a lot of specialists? But I know that at Fosway, Sven, you know extremely well the DACH market, but you also have an amazing vision on the global market. So what's your analyst view on the learning market? What's so specific with the DACH market according to your expertise?
Yeah, I guess so. Overall, we look at the EMEA market as a whole in a certain way that I guess since the pandemic, which was obviously a challenging year for instructor-led, since the pandemic, the budgets have always kind of grown and increased for corporate. So there was more investment going into learning overall. Maybe even in Germany, there was now more into digital, more into virtual as a necessity. So certainly I agree that Germany was slower to digitize for sure. But 2023 now, actually, with the recession that we see and the disruption from geopolitical conflict and so on, is actually now a more challenging year for learning budgets for corporates, right? So maybe the worst year in 6 years that we've seen. So definitely an area where L&D teams need to focus on value and certainly getting ready for the future. So these are important themes for Germany as well. I'll come back to that. I guess from the pandemic now, we also are seeing that 42% of L&D teams are thinking that there is a certain level of digital learning fatigue and it's becoming more of a problem. So I guess overall, we are seeing a little bit of rebalance into in-presence training, virtual or not. So also in our latest research, we have obviously looked at what has the biggest impact on closing skill gaps. And this is really important for Germany because Germany, from the economic standpoint, is in a situation where we have very strong Mittelstand companies, automotive, it's obviously a very strong sector, but these sectors are undergoing a huge change. So as we know from our research, formal training and face-to-face events is seen as having the biggest impact on skill gaps, right? Closing them, upskilling, reskilling. These are among the top priorities for businesses in DACH region. So budgets centered around these kind of initiatives are potentially still a little bit easier to get through, right? So I guess that is important. But also our data shows that there's continued interest in blended learning. So, I mean, don't think of this as a one-dimensional answer. It's more important to see approaches where it's not just a standalone, but it's part of a mix of modalities. And so that you create a learner experience that is most effective and most valuable during this time. So L&D foremost during this time needs to be flexible to adjust to the speed that organizations need to move at. And in Germany, we were slow to digitize Germany. If you follow the political discussion, there's now on the governmental level a lot of initiatives that half fly. Some say it's good, some it's not so good. So in the corporate world, this has been quite similar, and also learning was fairly low, but it has been picking up since the pandemic. And I guess that is now at a point where this upskilling, reskilling is really quite important for German organizations. So definitely something that is of relevance here. And there's certainly industries which are more affected by this. Like I said, the automotive industry. Germany, I think, is a very rational market, right? So we are all kind of concerned about cost and getting a good ROI on these kind of things, being efficient. I mean, these are all like the typical things when you think about Germany, right? And it's true, right? And it's also applying to German learning. For example, the digital learning content is sometimes maybe not. There's probably a maturity gap if you look at this more on an international level. Organizations are struggling sometimes to engage learners into that digital learning content. So that's also why there's always an easier way to swing back into in-presence, because that is what companies and people are used to doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's and what I would say, what I would add maybe is that it's true absolutely that the Germany is an ROI market, a return on investment market, very rational market, so bring me the proof. Bring me the proof that it works. So I think it's a very serious way to take it. So this market is probably less attracted by some shiny object that have not yet demonstrated, or proven anything. Some market will add up really quickly. and get rid of very quickly. The German market is very rational. So, proving and then deploying, scaling. So we see obviously that instructor-led training, virtual in-presence training is pretty big, and we're seeing companies choosing the efficiencies of managing really well the training operation, because they export a lot and they have to serve global clients, so they have to scale. Their instructor obviously travel a lot and they have expert in Germany, so it's also a very big subject to manage properly and make the most of those strategic resources. And they have been very early adopters of virtual classroom and hybrid model. So still they are on the forefront. This market is at the forefront, but it's really proving, I would say, and demonstrating the ROI that is a particularity that is extremely interesting, Jennifer.